All right, welcome to the SnydeReport. I am your host, Gary Snyder. With me today is Democrat candidate for Indiana's 3rd Congressional District. I should know that one because
Yep.
I ran for that district 3 years ago.
Yes, you did.
Kelly
Yes, you did.
Thompson. Welcome, Kelly.
Hi, thank you so much, Gary. Glad to be here.
How's campaigning going so far?
Well, in the world that we live in today, there is no time to sit down and take a break and analyze.
None.
So it's been going very well. It's been going very busily and quickly every day, lots of things, but we know that's the nature of the beast, right? You got to
I
get out
see you
there, get
everywhere on
moving.
social media, so you're doing something right.
Listen, not only is that what campaigning involves, it's also what the job involves.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not the type of person that can be out there and be everywhere and be available to the constituents of the 3rd district, then you have no business running for this seat to begin with, right?
Yeah, because it's a pretty big district and, it could change.
It could change. Currently, we're at 13 counties and 4,300 square miles. So
Yeah.
in order to get everywhere, there's a lot of driving.
I feel
And
your pain. I
again,
used to tell
currently.
people because I would do this and the newsletter anyway, and
Sure.
campaign. My job literally was driving and asking people for money.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is not the most fun part of the job, right? Asking people for money is never ever fun. Nobody likes to do that. The type of person who runs for office is the type of person that can see opportunities for improvement that are basically problem solvers.
Hmm.
And for much of those type of people's lives, we see problems and we just tackle them and we get them done. We learn that we can count on us to do the job that needs to be done. This job is too big for one person. And in order to win and actually make a difference, it's going to take all of us, volunteers, door knockers, text bankers, people to put up signs, and people to donate money. And until we can affect some really good campaign finance reform, that is just where we are.
I've always been a driver. I like driving, but
Sure.
I really came to appreciate being driven
Right?
when
Because you
I
can
when I
multitask,
ran for
right?
Congress.
Yes, yes, because there's lots of work that can be done right here, right?
Exactly.
Necessary work, not only what we're saying and typing, but the news that's coming in at such a rapid pace. That's important. So, yes, but
And
I
my
like to
wife,
drive too.
she doesn't let me drive her anywhere these days unless she's had a glass of wine or something. So
Right. Right.
she's learned that probably she's a lot safer with her driving instead of me.
I understand that completely.
Well, you've embarked on this huge mission to run for Congress in Indiana's 3rd district. I've seen you all over social media, but I don't know a lot about you. So take a
Sure.
few minutes and tell us a little bit about Kelly Thompson.
Thank you for this opportunity to do exactly that. My name is Kelly Thompson. I live here in Kosciuszko County, which is the northeast part of this big district, number 3. I have been married to my husband for 2 years. We have 6
42?
kids, 42 years. Yep, I
We're
started
hitting
hanging out with
30
him when I was
this
12.
December
Good job.
with 7
Good job.
kids. So
Oh, you have 7?
we have 7,
Wow. Wow. I
6
used to
girls
always
and 1
say
boy. So,
I
but go ahead, talk about
we
yourself.
have
So,
we have 3 and 3. 3 girls,
okay.
3 boys. All of them grown up now. All of them, and I'm a little biased, I think are amazing individuals, brilliant and very strong-willed and opinionated. And some of the qualities that I bring to running for office, I learned from my children in that they would challenge me on ideas, challenge me on rules, challenge me on goals. And I had to learn how to listen to people that had differing opinions than me that I really wanted to stay connected with. And so raising those 6 strong-willed young people has taught me how to stay in conversations that are difficult, listen to what other people are saying, and try to understand why they see things differently than I do, so that we can work together, come together, and reach the goals that we all have. I bring that skill set to the table as I run for and hopefully become the representative for the 3rd district. We also are small business owners. We own a concrete contracting business here, so we know the pressures of the construction world. We know the pressures of being a business owner, being employers, having employees that are counting on us to be able to make payroll every week. I know those pressures well. We also were nonprofit founders here. We stepped into the gap in our local community when we were having some issues with teenage suicides. We were losing a couple kids a year here at our local high school, and
Hmm.
I just felt like somebody needed to reach in to tell these kids that they were okay and that tomorrow was worth sticking around for. So that and it just expanded and grew. We had kids coming every week from South Bend, Valparaiso, all over the state because they were hungry for that, to know that just because life feels like it's not working for you doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you and that life is difficult for everybody. So that grew into a nonprofit coffee house and then a summer school program. And then we called it the Outpost, where parents could come and learn the skills they needed in order to communicate peacefully in their home. Never wanted to be a politician. I never wanted to run for office. I just wanted to help families.
Hmm.
And so I took what I learned from being so intimately involved with those families and for them, they're trusting me with their stories. And I tried to take that to our representatives and they didn't care. And so I said, you know what? I care. And what I have learned from these families, I've been entrusted with, and to turn away, to not try to affect change, felt as though I was complicit. So I thought, you know what? I'll just run. So that's what I did. I ran in 2020 for the state house, learned a lot, made a lot of really good headway. Actually ended up with like 45% voter penetration here in Kosciuszko County as a Democrat, which was huge.
That
I
is.
had I had Republican elected officials contribute to my campaign because when people get to know me, they'll understand that I am not a party loyalist. I'm a people loyalist. And so parties change over time. They follow their leadership, whoever's in charge, and parties morph and switch. But the needs of our people don't. And their right to ask for what they need doesn't. And so what we need are people who are normal, regular people who actually care, who won't be bought and won't be dissuaded and won't be deterred and won't be intimidated to actually fight for what we need. So listen, I'm running for the people. I'm running as a Democrat because currently I feel that the Democratic platform most correctly aligns with the needs of the people in my community.
So you mentioned you're a small business owner. I'm a small
Yes.
business owner. There's
Mhm.
thousands of small business owners
Mhm.
across the district.
Yep.
There's a lot of people out there that don't own small businesses and go to work every day for someone else.
Mhm.
There are a lot of people in there that are retired. As a small business owner, what are you experiencing right now
Mhm.
when it comes to higher prices? Because I know with myself, when I go get a cup of coffee or buy some coffee at the Walmart,
Mhm.
it's a lot more expensive. When I go to buy a pound of hamburger to fix something for dinner, it's now almost $7 a pound. When
Or
I go
more.
buy some vegetables, I know that they're up 78% this year.
Mhm.
Um, and I know small business owners everywhere, whether it's retail, construction, contractors, are paying more for everything. Are you
Mhm.
seeing that? And are you hearing that from other small business owners?
Yes, that's an easy question to answer. Yes, absolutely. Not just from the tariffs, but also the uncertainty involved, right?
Hmm.
So, in our arena as a concrete contracting company, of course, steel prices are going to greatly affect everything that we do. We are hoping that the contracts that we are awarded, that we've already previously bid on, right? And that you've
Hmm.
been awarded, you've already factored in the costs at the moment. Sometimes when tariffs are public and people understand the shortages, whether they're supply chain issues or tariffs, you can go back and renegotiate those contracts. Oftentimes you can't. And so what happens is we, as the small business owners, have to eat that. And what people don't understand is that the majority of us small business owners are not out here getting rich. We're out here
Surviving.
supplying a service and providing jobs for other people. So the other hidden effect is that when you're a small business owner, you know your employees and you know the way their lives are being affected by not just work, but when they go to the grocery store and they have to pay so much for hamburger or whatever it is. And when you're a good employer, you care. You
Hmm.
care that this is harder on your people. And so when you have some like we do that are now moving because it's too hard to stay. They could afford it, A few years ago, they could live in the home that they're living in, still be able to have a car, still be able to pay their car insurance, still be able to buy their groceries, right? But now all of a sudden, what we're finding is our employees are telling us, do you know of any rentals? We need to sell our house. They need to access some of that money so that they have a little bit of cushion, or they just quite simply can't afford their mortgage anymore on top of childcare or on top of groceries. This is hard. You mentioned that I go everywhere, and I do. I've been every day going somewhere, traversing the entire state, actually. And I was in Adams County at a fair not that long ago, and there were a line of people waiting for food. And I thought, I'm just going to walk down this line and I'm going to hand out my lit and I'm going to introduce myself to them and give them a chance to tell me what's keeping them up at night. What are you worried about? Because for too long, our legislators haven't actually asked us. They assume that if Wall Street is doing good, then Main Street is also doing good, but that is just not the case. So one young man I was handing out my information to, and he looked over and he saw that one of the things that we have a plan for is affordable housing. And he shared his story with me, and he said, during the pandemic, we got behind, my wife and I. He worked at Pepsi. He had a good job. She worked at Pepsi, or she worked at a good job as well. But he said we got behind and we started robbing Peter to pay Paul. The next thing we knew, we couldn't afford where we were living anymore. And we moved into a hotel that was pay by the week. And we lived there for some time. Then my wife started cleaning and helping in that hotel. And now they both manage that hotel for other people who live there by the week. He's still also working at Pepsi. So he shared with me this story of an older couple that was living there that came into them a couple weeks before I met him and said, "Listen, we just went to pick up my wife's prescriptions and they were so expensive that we can no longer afford our weekly rent here at this hotel." So that older couple asked my friend Jose, that was standing in line talking with me, if it would be possible for them to sleep in their car in the parking lot of the hotel so that they could afford their medications. This is what we're looking at. This
Yeah.
is the country that we're living in right now. Then he said to me, both of those individuals were veterans. So here we have two veterans, retired, living in their car at a pay by the week hotel parking lot so that they could afford their medication. So we have to fix this. This is cruel and really unsustainable. I don't understand why we are being told we can't. So yeah, it affects small businesses, but it also affects the employees of the small businesses,
Mhm.
and it also affects the families of the employees of the small businesses. I wish I could tell you that things weren't interconnected, but everything is connected. Everything is connected. It
Kelly, can
costs
you
all
hold
of
through a
us.
quick break?
You bet, sure can.
You're listening to the Snide Report. I'm Gary Snyder. We'll be right back. All right, this is the part of the Snide Report where we thank our sponsors, and we have a growing list. So let's start with Robin Winston. Robin has been there when we first sent out our first email, 147 subscribers. We're now over 108,000. So thank you, Robin Winston, and helping us get the podcast going in the right direction. Next up is our good friend, former Congresswoman Jill Long Thompson. Her book, Across the Aisle, Why Bipartisanship Works for America. Get that anywhere you buy your books. Also, former two-term governor, two-term U.S. Senator Evan Bayh. Evan has been a sponsor of the newsletter, now jumps on board with the podcast. Congressman Andre Carson. Congressman Carson has been there from the start. We're glad to have him over here on the newsletter now. He needs your help to win re-election next year. So make sure you support Congressman Carson. Next up, State Representative Cherish Pryor. Cherish has been there from the start on the newsletter, joining us on the podcast now. So is State Senator Greg Taylor. I want to thank Senator Taylor for all of his support through the years. Next, we have a couple of new sponsors. First up is Indiana Citizen. You want to check out their new project, One Heartbeat Away. Do Christian nationalists have an agenda for Indiana? You know, all you have to do is look at the lieutenant governorship and you can see right away that they do. So thank you, Indiana citizen. Next up is Jump Laundry. You can visit them at jumplaundry.com. They have home pickup. They do your dry cleaning, wash and fold with, I might add, no judgments, and next day service. So if you're in a crunch for time, you don't want to do your own laundry, get a hold of Jump Laundry at jumplaundry.com or at 317-740-5011, and they will take care of all of your laundry needs. Welcome back to the Snyder Report. I am your host, Gary Snyder. Today we are speaking with Democrat candidate for Indiana's 3rd Congressional District, Kelly Thompson. Kelly, one thing that I've noticed about your campaign, and it's not necessarily that way with all campaigns that I recognize or I look at. And one thing that I see you doing is you're out there almost 100% of the time talking about kitchen table issues. You know, the story you just told, you're not out there fighting culture wars.
No,
You're
who
out
has the
there,
time?
you're out there talking about kitchen table issues and interviewing several people over the past, I don't know, 6 months, 5 months since we started this podcast back up. I've had the mayor of Hammond, Tom McDermott. I've had former congressman, U.S. Senate candidate and U.S. presidential candidate Beto O'Rourke. I've had Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear. All tell me, do you want to be right or do you want to win? And while those culture war issues are important, the focus needs to be on kitchen table issues, because the culture war issues are, I don't want to say secondary, because they're not secondary to the people it affects.
Of course.
But you got to realize where you're running at in rural Indiana. So that is the one thing that really caught my eye about your campaign, at least initially, because you weren't talking about guys playing women's sports or whatever the culture war issue of the day was. You were talking about veterans living in their car in a motel. You were talking about prescription prices. You were talking about how the big, bad, ugly Bill and Marlon Stutzman are screwing Hoosiers.
Yeah.
And that's what really caught my eye about your campaign. Can you talk about that a little
Yeah,
bit?
I would love to talk about that a lot. And I wish everybody would talk about this a lot. And here's why. We don't have the luxury right now of fighting each other.
Mm-hmm.
That is exactly what the powers that be want us to do. They want us to fight these culture wars. They want us to blame each other. They want us to point our finger at each other. They want us to be angry and incensed with each other. And if we do that, we go nowhere. Nothing productive happens. We get no change. And so what happens is what I mentioned earlier, the difference between Wall Street and Main Street. This is the problem. We're being told that the economy's great, but the people who are telling us that are looking at the Dow Jones, right? They're looking at stock market prices, when the rest of us who live on Main Street are telling them the economy is not great for us. They don't understand that
And the Biden
because they're not
campaign
like us.
fell into that a little bit. Hey, look at the
Of
stock
course.
market. You know, never mind that the price of eggs were $6 a dozen. And not necessarily their fault, but they were, and they weren't addressing them.
Absolutely. And this is why we have elected officials who don't have a clue what normal people are dealing with. They don't understand. You know, I tell people I'm very honest and open about my own life and what we went through. And as small business owners in the construction industry, in 2008, when the market dumped and the housing bubble burst, our home was in foreclosure. I had to make a really hard decision on whether or not I let my home go and keep the boom truck and the wall forms? Or do I let the wall forms and the boom truck go to try to keep my house? But it only took about 30 seconds to realize that if I decided to keep the house and let the boom truck and wall forms go, then when the market did come back, I would have no way of supporting myself, right? Ultimately, you're going to lose both if you don't. luckily we were able to refinance during that time and stay in our home. But the reason that I tell that story is because the people in power now haven't felt our pain. And because they haven't felt our pain, they don't believe that our suffering or our struggles are not self-inflicted. They don't understand that the systems in place and the laws and the policies that are in place have been written by powerful people who don't get us, who don't understand us, who don't want to understand us, who don't think it's important to understand us. And until we change that, until we elect normal people who don't care about red or blue, who don't care about Democrat or Republican, who don't care about all the peripheral reasons that we could hate each other and fight each other, but actually say healthcare is important. Medical debt is the number one reason for bankruptcy in this country. You know that is uniquely American, right? You know
And they're
that we
adding
have
it.
chosen that.
The Trump administration just allowed it to be added back onto your credit report.
There you go. See, so how many times are we going to get hit because simply we had a child who needed to go to the doctor? All 6 of my children were born without health insurance because we couldn't afford it at the time. I was hoping every time that nothing bad went wrong. My daughter fell down and got hurt one time, and on our way to the hospital, I had to ask her, Hannah, are you really hurt? Or are you really, really hurt? Because I'm wondering if I keep her home for another couple hours, will she be okay? Am I going to go and spend $2,000 at the ER to find out it's a bruise? I don't know. How are we supposed to navigate that when other industrialized countries, all the other industrialized countries, don't have to ask themselves that question? They can simply say, my child is hurt. I want to take him to the doctor without fear of that fallout. We can and should do this. My mother right now has stage 4 breast cancer. She was just in the hospital for over a week because of a complications with her new chemo, and it turned into just a cascading
Mhm.
events with some surgeries involved. She has Medicare. She has United Healthcare as her provider under Medicare. They wouldn't let her leave the hospital until they could get the okay from United Healthcare for her home health people to come take care of the wound that she had. Do you think we
Fo-
could do that? No.
41% of births in Indiana occur under Medicaid. 71%, I believe, somewhere around there, of all nursing home patients are there under Medicaid. That is being cut in Indiana,
It is
both
being
from
cut.
the governor and Indiana General Assembly and from Marlon Stutzman's votes
Yep. Well,
on the big ugly bill.
so Marlon Stutzman and representatives like him work for the president, not for us. I want us to learn to differentiate who our representatives are supposed to work for and then ask ourselves who are they actually working for. I'm sorry to interrupt you on this point, but
No,
this
you go
really
right
makes me
ahead.
angry because when people cut Medicaid and they cut SNAP benefits and they further add to the suffering of the people who are trying really hard to make it in this country because they say we can't afford it, but then in the same bill give almost the exact same dollar amount in tax cuts to the ultra wealthy? I call BS. I'm sorry. You played your hand. We see it for what it is. You are simply taking from the poor who you think have no power and you think don't matter and gave it to the wealthy. That's exactly what happened in that bill. And they said they had to do it for financial reasons. So, A, they gave the same tax cut that they took away from poor people, they gave it to rich people, and increased the debt ceiling and deficit limits. So, sorry, if anybody's listening out there and they say, yeah, but we can't afford it, that's BS.
And Marlon, you mentioned he's not watching out for our interests. It's odd that the bills that he's pressing for tax breaks, tariff breaks for imported beef semen.
Himself. Yeah, because that benefits him.
The farm workers, not
Don't,
deporting farm workers.
yep, don't take mine, he says, right?
Yeah, it's hypocritical of him, but I don't think anyone's ever accused him of not being that.
No, but what we have to fight in this, especially in this state,
Hmm.
is the fact that there are people who believe that it's important to vote straight ticket red all the time. What I'm trying to get people to hear and understand and trust me with is that we need to pretend that parties aren't on the ballot. We need to take the time to get to know our candidates and find out who actually knows what life is like on Main Street, who's felt it, who can we trust to actually take those cares and concerns to DC and fight for us. And then who can we trust to come back from DC and tell us what's going on and what's not going on. That's the job of a congressperson. That's the job. And if your current congressperson, regardless of party, is not doing that, or you don't know if they're doing that, then they're not doing that. And it's time to change. It's time to vote for someone else that we can trust and believe in. When I ran in 2020, I had so many thousands of yards that had Donald Trump signs and Kelly Thompson signs in their yard. And don't get me wrong, it's not because Donald Trump and I are similar in any way. It's that people are fed up with government the way it's been going, and they wanted to drain the swamp. They wanted to get rid of career politicians who don't give a damn about any of us. That's what was happening.
People
And they
made
believed that I was that person.
people made fun of me a little bit when I told them that Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders had a very similar economic message. It's the problem is Bernie Sanders believed it, and Donald Trump told you to go screw yourself once he got
Yep.
elected.
Exactly. He conned us. And that's what I tell Republicans now when they're like, I don't know, this
You
is
were
really
lied to.
confusing. That's exactly what I say. But I say we were lied to.
Right.
Because he lied to all of us.
Mhm.
Some of us took a little longer to catch on to the fact that it was all lies, but now we see. He said the system's broken, but instead of fixing it, he exploited it. And he made it even more broken. And even today is making it even more broken when I just saw the headline come across the news that he would like to eliminate mail-in ballots and drop boxes. So let's make it harder for the people to vote. Because why? Because they know that if the people get together and actually vote in their best interest, they're screwed. This is why he called Texas, because he knows it.
Yeah, I mean, and that Texas call to Greg Abbott sound eerily familiar to the one he
Yeah,
made to
to
the
Georgia.
Secretary of State in Georgia.
Yeah,
We have
absolutely.
almost 100 Indiana legislators heading to the White House next week to they be swayed, if you will, to change Indiana's district congressional districts. So instead of being a 7-2, they'll be gerrymandered to either be 8-1 or 9-0. You're running for Congress. This would affect you. This could affect the 3rd district. Just give me your quick thoughts on that real quick.
Quick thoughts are no, we can't do that. We've never ever done this at the behest of a president to redistrict mid 10-year period, right? 5 years in. That shouldn't happen. When I ran last time, they already gerrymandered me out of the district I ran in the first time. I know what this feels like. But the truth of the matter in Indiana is, so my answer is no, we shouldn't do that, but I have no power to control that. So if it happens, nothing changes on my end. I still show up everywhere I possibly can. I still knock on thousands of doors. I still give the people of the 3rd district the chance to get to know me, to see if they can trust me to fight on their behalf. That's my job, no matter what the district looks like. They can try all they want. The only reason they're trying is because they are panicking. Why are they panicking? Because the people are saying, finally, I don't care what you say about the economy, I think it hurts me right now. I don't care what you say about education, I think schools are important. I don't care what you say about healthcare, I think we deserve the right to have access to affordable healthcare. This is what's happening. They have made the biggest mistake ever in that passing all of this hurt, all of this harm that they are doing at such a rapid speed to dissuade us from even attempting to make a change, not knowing where to shoot first to try to fix things, is going to hurt everybody. Red, blue, independent, voters, non-voters, everybody's going to get hurt by this. This is not selective.
If they did not suck at being president or a U.S. senator or a congressman or a state legislator, they wouldn't be changing the rules midway through.
So the solution is stop sucking. Stop sucking. Do the job.
Exactly.
This is not just where you go to get a paycheck. You have to do the job, and the job is hard, and the job takes meeting lots of people, but you got to elect people that are actually willing to do that. So look on the campaign trail, find out who's doing it already, and vote for those people regardless of party.
All right, this is the portion of the interview where I say, tell people where they can find you, give you money, all that good stuff.
Yeah, fantastic. So you can find me on Kelly Thompson for Congress on Facebook, and pinned to the top is my ActBlue link so that you can make donations. It's important. I need that. I'm asking people to tell 5 people about me. Please contribute $5 a month to my campaign and take one person to the voting booth that doesn't normally vote in a midterm election so that they can show up and let their voice be heard. We don't have a governor or a president on the ballot in 2026. So this means every single vote counts. You can win by one or you can lose by one. So I need every single vote I can possibly get if you want a real person in Washington, D.C., fighting about real issues for you and for your family and for your kids. That's why I'm doing it. I have to be able to look at my grandkids one day and say, Mimi tried. That's
And
what
if
I'm
you're
doing.
one of the 110,000 that receive the Snide Report every day, you will see her lovely face on there. Click on that banner, and it will take you to any place you want to go to find out more about her campaign, or give her money. Kelly
Yep.
Thompson,
My
thank you.
campaign would want me to tell you I'm also on TikTok and all the other stuff, and Twitter and all that stuff. So thank you for this opportunity today, Gary. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. I am Gary Snyder. She is not. That's obvious. She's
It's
Kelly
obvious.
Thompson. She's running for Congress in Indiana's 3rd Congressional District. This is the Snide Report, and we are out.